This is Hall of Famer Marshall Faulk, and you're listening to the Fantasy Footballers.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, September 29th. The year is 2015, and we are the Fantasy Footballers.
Yeah.
And the blood moon rises on the fantasy world. And definitely benefited Jamal Charles. Jason just rammed himself into our desk.
Just getting comfortable. I like to smash.
Welcome to the show. Did
Yeah.
you guys hear that drop at the beginning?
Hall of Fame running back Marshall Faulk.
We should have had him say, good, close personal friend.
Yes. He is on the show today, our good, close personal friend, Marshall Faulk.
My new BFF, Marshall Faulk, is on the show today.
Yeah, he's going to drop some fantasy knowledge for us, share some information with us. We have a good show. This is our waiver wire show, so we're going to go through and talk about everybody that you should be looking to sign unless you are in a league like the one that Jason is the commissioner of, in which case he put the waiver wire through this morning for some reason, and so I didn't get anybody.
That's the reason. The reason is so I can sneak in and grab people when everyone else is not.
Jason has resorted to guerrilla tactics.
This is a good time to talk about our official commissioner training association, an 8-year commitment. Jason's the first enrollee. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You can find us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com. Listen, you can go on there. You can click the submit a question button. Send us your question. If you have a desperate need, you can get those answers back very quickly. You can also join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com. Very easy. We got about 600 people in there chatting about fantasy football all the time. You can find us on Twitter at the FF Ballers, and I think that Mike taking pictures of us right now is a way of saying we're on Instagram now.
Yeah, there's this new program. I don't know if you guys have heard of this.
MySpace
is the Instagram. We're trying to get into it, get some behind-the-scenes stuff going. Just get people even more involved than they
Listen,
already
the first
are.
picture that went up there, or the second picture, was of a DeLorean that's sitting on our desk, so I'm quite happy with that. Yeah, it's right here.
There you go. You can see it on YouTube.
And the door's open.
Oh, it's a full working model.
Yeah.
If we could fit in.
Full working model.
It goes back in time.
Yeah, if we could fit in, we could do anything.
Do you know who I put in there? The Indian in the cupboard. He goes in there and he goes back in time. Actually, he came forward in time, I guess, if he's...
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, quick question of the day. Heading into week 4, I have completely given up on...
Andre Johnson.
Oh, great pick, dude.
Andre Johnson, he looks old, and he has been officially Moncriefed. I believe he had one target last week.
Been Moncriefed, or has he been like... Is he just on the way out physically, too?
Father Time is undefeated.
Right. He needs the DeLorean. All right, so Jason, heading into week 4, I've completely given up on
Devin Funchess. He was a guy that you drafted with hopes that maybe he could be Kelvin Benjamin. He's not. He stinks. So I've given up on him.
But he's the bunches.
He's bunches of Funches. I was also going to say Colin Kaepernick because we had him high in our preseason rankings, and he was so terrible. But
he was the start of the week last week. He was the QB4.
Well, that's why I didn't say it, because streaming,
yeah, he's been great.
He still can have
what's
good
his
matchups.
What's his actual ranking right now in quarterback play? He is not up there. That was a bad game, didn't he?
Yeah,
that was a bad
bad.
game.
Did he have positive points?
I don't believe he did.
He
had 6 points, dude.
Okay, because I couldn't remember if he threw the touchdown.
Dominating 4 interception, 67 yards, 0 touchdown. Oh, he ran for a touchdown. He ran for a touchdown and ended with a stat line of 6.
He's actually the number 8.
What was hilarious for Colin Kaepernick is there was the Roto World blurb of like, oh, they've simplified the playbook and Colin Kaepernick succeeding. And then after the game, when the Cardinals dominated, Tyrann Mathieu came out and said, yeah, they simplified the playbook so we knew exactly what they were going to do.
Yeah. He's like, it was, I think his quote was, it was really easy to, intercept him.
All right. I was unsure of which guys to do. I'd love to throw Davante Adams' name in there just because I'm bitter as an owner of Davante Adams, but injury isn't going to be the thing that makes me give up on him. And when he comes back, we can see what James Jones can do. So I'm going to go with Doug Martin.
Oh,
He hasn't been terrible. Not like, earth-shattering terrible, but I just think there are so many limitations for him in that offense and the things that he's doing. And through 3 weeks, I think Doug Martin is just...
When they were up in their game, he still only had 49% of snap counts, which is really weird and is a great reason to give up on him.
All right, one of the things we like to do at least once a week is go ahead and read a review from one of our listeners. We really appreciate it when you subscribe to the show on iTunes if you enjoy the content. If you want a way to give back, so to speak, it's as simple as leaving us a nice review on iTunes. We appreciate that. So let's go ahead and read one from the Great White North.
Reviewosaurus Rex.
This one comes in from Gareth Ryan. 5 stars. Is titled Withstanding Victories in Canada. I've been able to withstand...
Whoa.
Oh,
You missed the
I
beginning.
skipped
Yeah.
bonjour.
Thank you.
Bonjour. I have been able to withstand multiple victories since I started listening to this podcast. What I love about the FF Ballers is their ability to create a great sounding show that isn't like every other sportscast out there. It's unique, it's funny, and informative. I literally wake up and check to see if there's a new episode every morning just so I can get an inside edge and withstand the victories over my league mates. Well, thank you, Gareth Ryan.
Not every show can withstand victories. That's
Only
what makes
on
it.
the FF Ballers.
So thank you for that. And I believe his actual first line said, I have been able to withstanding multiple victories. So he's just taking the grammatical train all the way down the track.
Brilliant.
I tried
All
to
right.
help him.
Yeah, that's very nice. Let's get into the news.
News and notes from around the league.
All right, we got a big show today, so I'm gonna hit these quick. You guys jump in if you think we need to talk more about it. All indications from Adam Schefter and from other reports is that Alshon Jeffrey is going to suit up and play this week. However, in the secretive lair of John Fox, the 0-3 Bears are playing the competitive advantage game, and John Fox has declined to update us.
Man, so during the Green Bay game, I didn't tweet it out because I was out at a dinner with my family. But the Packers, while they were in that that gray zone of should you punt, should you go for it, 4th and 4, they went for it. And I wanted to tweet
Rodgers.
somewhere John Fox is just sweating profusely and quaking because he cannot believe that they would actually go for it on a 4th down.
Do you think he's just muttering, I would have punted here?
Yes.
I would have punted
Yeah.
here.
And
Punt it.
I believe they turned the ball over, though, and
they
Kansas City went down and scored. So,
All that being said, we don't want to disparage all Bears fans and all hope.
No.
They seem to be
Just
trading
John
away.
Fox.
Yeah, they seem to be trading away players now, as Jared Allen and Brian Bostic have both been traded. Alshon Jeffrey will return. Matt Forte is still a strong play. He actually had an okay game in Seattle just because of usage, so he'll be fine. So Alshon Jeffrey, you expect him out there?
Yeah, I think so.
For at least a couple plays before he gives me another gooser on my team. All right, the Bengals, obviously we want to know about Jeremy Hill, so we wanted to pay attention to what's being said. Coach Marvin Lewis said, when we're behind, it's Giovanni Bernard.
yeah,
That's not good news.
It's a very difficult kind of situation because they're winning. They've been behind, and so it's been Gio. Gio's producing. They're winning games. I don't see any reason for the coaching staff to change things up. Jeremy Hill's still a young player. Bernard is the veteran compared to Hill. I think you are going to get some lacking production in Jeremy Hill.
Yeah, the next 3 weeks are weeks that they could possibly be behind. You got the Chiefs, the Seahawks, and the Bills. So pretty good defenses there, generally speaking.
Go ahead.
I'll say I'm not selling him because I'm not taking garbage for Jeremy Hill, who still can do
Talent-wise,
Yeah.
he's fine. We don't give up on the talent.
and that's exactly why I don't do it. I'm not taking waiver wire trash to sell Jeremy Hill. I'll just put him on your bench and wait for him to come back out.
Would you trade Jeremy Hill for Latavius Murray?
Yes,
Okay, so that's about...
Would you trade Jeremy Hill for Chris Ivory?
that I get that question a lot, and I think at this point,
It's because I
would.
ask you like 3 times a day. Why don't you do that deal? All right.
That's where they're coming from. It's you on Twitter making new accounts. Hey, would you do just planting?
I'm
you're,
planting.
You're going Inception in my
I'm
head.
going long con here. All right, I want to cut that up and use it as the official drop. All right, Jets coach Todd Bowles expects Chris Ivory to be good to go. We have a friend in New York who we talked to yesterday who said Ivory ran out of the tunnel. I mean, he looked ready to rumble, but not so good if you went out and started him. I also got an email or a message on jointhefoot.com from a listener who he decided last minute to switch out and start Ivory. He ended up tying in his matchup thanks to Aaron Rodgers last night and losing on the bench points of Lamar Miller. Lamar, yeah. The Vikings are hopeful Charles Johnson will be ready for week 4. Do we care?
No.
I hope that any of the receivers are ready there.
Bills coach Rex Ryan amidst Sammy Watkins could miss week 4. Who do you upgrade?
You know who I upgrade? Charles Clay. He's looked really
that's a
good,
good call.
and I think it's a nice matchup. In my league that I have ousted Andy's ability to pick up players, I just got him. So,
of course,
yay
if
me.
I can't sign waivers, I won't. Speaking Monday, Chip Kelly says, and this is very divulgent of him, no idea if Ryan Matthews will lead the team in carries. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't. That's a little scary, though, if you're the DeMarco Murray owner. And I will say, preseason, this is the exact reason why I said Ryan Matthews' value is so much better than DeMarco Murray's. Just because you got him super late versus paying super early, and you don't know how the split's going to end up at the end of the year. That being said, I think it's still going to be the DeMarco Murray show for now. What do you think, Andy? Who's getting the ball?
I still like Sproles if Murray's limited to just be involved. He had a good week 1. He had a good week 3. So I think Sproles is still their bye weeks coming up in one of my leagues. I believe in that league where I needed to sign a running back but couldn't because you changed the waiver wire earlier. I'm starting Darren Sproles because I have nobody else.
Sweet.
So Rex Ryan hasn't ruled out the idea of resting LaShawn McCoy. I am starting Karlos Williams in one of my leagues this week. Are you guys?
If LaShawn McCoy sits, I'm starting Karlos Williams for sure.
What if he does not?
Then I'm probably not because
I would
my team's
flex him.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, quick news for all your kicker leagues. Cody Parkey to IR. Eagles will sign Caleb Sturgis, formerly of, I believe, the Dolphins, right?
Yeah. We should confirm that.
So let's talk about the Monday night game. Injury-wise, Lacey played, and he played into the second half. He was definitely being spelled by Starks, but he looked okay, and he was involved in the passing game. The bad news here, as I mentioned earlier, Davante Adams went out very early. The report is high ankle sprain, probably going to miss some time. So biggest beneficiary is
James Jones.
James Jones
biggest under 40 years old beneficiary is
Ty Montgomery.
Okay.
James
Jones is the guy to own for sure.
James. Oh, he did it again.
He's going to help. He's going to help teams. I mean,
how bad are the Raiders?
Oh, to cut him?
Not that he's super talented. Just it's amazing how your whole career as a wide receiver can change just on a quarterback. Rapport, quarterback play. I mean, Jones clearly hasn't lost everything, but I don't think he's that good.
Well, they said it on the game last night. The fact that Randall Cobb, if he plays the rest of his career with Aaron Rodgers, he could be a Hall of Famer, and he almost went to the Raiders. And you would have never heard of him again.
Off season.
That's a smart thing. But it was a lot of fun last night watching that game. I watched it. I tweeted this out. I was watching it with my 6-year-old little man, and it was awesome.
You were just talking about wanting to go to a Thursday night game.
That is true, and that's what we're going to do. I am going to get my seats on SeatGeek for the Thursday night game coming up against the Minnesota Vikings here in Arizona. Take my family to the game. The SeatGeek app is the place to get your tickets. You can do it online or download the app. Their app and online has 3 really cool features that ensure you get the best price on the best tickets. Basically, they pull in tickets from everywhere, so you don't need to search anywhere. They do it for you. They also give you a really easy-to-track, color-coded grid where you could just click the biggest green circle and you will get the best deal. And finally, their mobile app is so easy to just buy tickets over and over. It takes no time. So here's what you need to do, and you'll actually get $20 back for doing it through us. To redeem your promo code and save $20 on tickets, download the free SeatGeek app today. Enter promo code FOOTBALLERS in the app, and SeatGeek will send you $20 once you've made your first purchase with the SeatGeek app. And every ticket purchased on SeatGeek is backed by a 100% guarantee. So download the free SeatGeek app today and enter FOOTBALLERS.
All right, so we are going to get into the waiver wire section here in just a minute, but I want to remind everybody about Stamps.com. Listen, nothing is a better endorsement than to say we use it, and we use Stamps.com. You've seen us tweet out. We have these Abdullah Express posters that we printed up, and we're sending out to Foot Clan members on jointhefoot.com. Listen, we use Stamps.com because it means we do not have to go to the post office, waste time every single day. We don't let those things slow us down. With Stamps.com, you can buy and print official U.S. postage right from your own computer and printer. Stamps.com will send you a digital scale. You'll never waste valuable time going to the post office, and you can do everything right from your desk with Stamps.com. Right now, sign up for Stamps.com and use our promo code FOOTBALLERS for this special offer, a 4-week trial plus a $110 bonus offer including postage and digital scale. Don't wait. Go to Stamps.com before you do anything else. Click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in Footballers. That's Stamps.com. Enter Footballers. You guys ready to talk some waivers?
Always.
Put me in, coach.
Yeah. Woo. Yeah.
Those were 3 cheers for Ruben Randle, right?
Oh, Ruben Randle.
How is he on? Okay, I guess this is the debate, right? You see these big numbers, so we're debating the merits of signing. I don't want Ruben Randle.
Is that because Victor Cruz comes back this week?
It's 2 parts failure in week 1 and 2, and it's 1 part Victor Cruz, making 3 parts.
So
you know who's working out for the New York Giants?
Who?
Hakeem Nicks.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Dude, James Jones and Hakeem Nicks.
Yeah.
They go back home.
They had someone else in. Who else did they bring in to work out?
I don't know.
Do you think this is a product of the older you get, the less new routes you can run, so you just go back and run the old ones at your old home stadium?
Yep.
I mean, it helps if you have a rapport.
Yeah. And here's why Ruben Randle is on the waiver wire for me, because I still like the offense, and there was one of these. The Giants were talking about we need to get Ruben Randle more involved, and they did. So it's kind of one of those just an A plus B type of thing where we want him to produce, and he did. So I'm
going to add one more part to my consideration. That would be the shoulder bounce garbage time touchdown.
Yeah, but even without the touchdown, he still had a productive day.
Yeah, he was actually really productive through the entire game. My thing about Victor Cruz, I put Victor Cruz on this list as a possible waiver pickup because it said that he's coming back. And I put that on there for other people. I am not a Victor Cruz believer this year. I've said that many times. But I understand I could be wrong on that. Victor Cruz could come back and be fantastic. But the fact that they are working out right now, Hakeem Nicks and Wes Welker.
Oh.
Wes Welker is also there working out for the Giants.
Oh.
Says to me that maybe Victor Cruz, maybe I'm reading too much into that, but I've never believed that Victor Cruz could come back this year and be Victor Cruz. He might.
I watched Victor Cruz run routes 3 months ago and looked great. He is being eased back in the way that he should be. He will be more productive than Ruben Randle the rest of the season, and he's a better guy to own for me. So we disagree.
Yep.
We obviously disagree. I'm not saying that as a fact. I'm saying that as my opinion versus yours. So I don't think Randle's a terrible player. I think he's a good player. I think he'll have his weeks. And
so who's the wide receiver pickup this week on waivers?
For me, I think it is slim pickings. I think Ty Montgomery needs to be in the consideration, especially if we hear about this high ankle sprain with Davante Adams leaving him out for extended period of time, 3 or 4 weeks. You go with the better quarterback. I think Marvin Jones needs to be in consideration. He's flashed very well. Dalton's having a very good season, fantasy and otherwise. And Davante Parker. Davante Parker got some time. Eventually, he has to emerge here.
Yeah.
He's the first-round pick.
And people are asking about Rashard Matthews. He had the huge game. A reminder that a big part of his game was because of so much garbage happening. And he only played – his snaps are coming down. He played just over 50% of the snaps. Davante Parker, like Andy said, is a first-round pick. I'm guessing that people are getting frustrated because that's how it works through 3 weeks. And Parker's a guy who I'm stashing now. He's
So-
not a guy who can come in and play for you right away.
Nope.
But you want high upside guys on your bench.
So for you, are you saying that you would rather have Davante Parker than Rashad Matthews?
Rest of season, yes. If you need a guy right now, it's probably still Matthews, but the decline of his snap percentages is worrisome.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that. You know, it's tough to look at a guy who got 6 catches for over 100 yards in back-to-back games with 2 total touchdowns and pick the rookie who's not doing anything over him. But I do agree in the second half of the year.
Well, they're struggling. They're a struggling offense too. So par for the course isn't going to work for them getting back into the division.
Agreed.
All right, let's talk about some running backs. Karlos Williams jumps off the page to me because he had another huge week despite McCoy starting. He was, I believe, I'm going to get the number slightly wrong, 10 for 110 and a touchdown, something
Basically.
like that. Also, Lance Dunbar had 10 catches.
For 100 yards.
Yeah, I mean,
PPR.
10 for 100. I mean, a great PPR guy to sign while Whedon's there. I mean, there's no reason to believe Whedon's not going to repeat the type of success. They would have won that game if their defense could have stopped Atlanta. That's the truth. They scored enough points to win the game at home against Atlanta.
Thomas
Who else?
Rawls. Thomas Rawls is another great pickup. If you're the Marshawn Lynch owner, we said this yesterday, that's the guy to own. He looks really good running the ball. If Marshawn Lynch isn't able to go or tweak something and comes back, Thomas Rawls better be on your team. You're going to want him.
I need to bring up some guys because there are a lot of decisions to be made right now in terms of who do you drop to sign
Yes,
these guys.
okay.
You don't get to just sign anybody you want. So what are you doing with guys like obviously you're not dropping Lamar Miller. Are you trading him?
I'm holding on to Lamar Miller. I still think they're going to figure it out and get him the ball. I don't think I'm going to get anything of value for him in trading him, and I'm definitely not dropping.
So, okay, do you drop Duke Johnson?
Yeah, I think I
For
would.
some of these guys, if I've got Marshawn Lynch, I would rather have Thomas Rawls.
Okay, what if you don't?
Then I would probably rather have Karlos Williams
So
or
you- over-
Lance Dunbar right now over
Duke Johnson.
Duke Johnson.
What about Alfred Blue? He had a good week, but
No,
Foster's
Alfred
on his way
Blue,
back.
to me, I would have no problem dropping. In fact, I did drop him in one of my leagues. I realized he had the big week, but it's
What about
that's going to
touchdown superstar Joique Bell?
That's actually a really
Do you
good
drop
question.
Joique Bell?
We were talking about this off
Yeah,
air,
we were.
and I think we both agreed it's time.
Let me
I
ask
would
you
drop
some
him.
more. Do you drop Eddie Royal?
Yes.
Yep.
Do you drop Roddy White?
Oh man,
Damn.
that the curious case of Roddy White. That is insanity. What is going on?
I
in
believe
Atlanta.
I said he is his career is done.
It's weird because he's a guy I would drop, and then he's also a guy I would look for on waivers. Like, how can he be both?
But I mean, if he has the potential for one gooser in a year, much less 2 in a row, do you really ever want to start a guy like that? And with the staple, I mean, I'd rather start Davante Parker every week right now than Roddy White.
Yeah.
He's
Roddy White,
droppable.
yes.
He is droppable.
Nelson
rather-
Aguilar. What do we do with Nelson Aguilar?
I had him on my pickup list. I don't know how available he is on the waiver wire, but this is about the time. Like I said, people are starting to get frustrated. They're going to drop him. A true story about Nelson Aguilar was on the field for every pass attempt.
Wow.
He's just not getting the passes, and he's getting shut down because he's still a rookie, and he's had to face some really, really tough DBs.
Yeah, because he is essentially their number one guy on
Yes.
the outside. Either normally
No Josh Huff this past week.
right, normally the opposing best defensive player is not going to play against the slot guy who is their best wide receiver in Jordan Matthews. So yeah, Aguilar has had some really tough rookie treatment by the defense.
They
All right,
I would say the snaps and everything say this guy should break out. If Sam Bradford can get his head out of his buttocks, then Nelson.
That's an official word?
Oh yeah,
The buttocks?
oh yeah.
Okay.
if as long as Sam Bradford can be adequate, then eventually Aguilar will come on. If you remember last year, it took Jordan Matthews a while to come on too, but then once everything was really moving, Jordan Matthews was weekly starter.
All right, I'm going to bring up a name we talked about in the offseason that we really hadn't heard about again until he decided to show up on Sunday, and that's Antonio Andrews. He was very good in preseason. He was getting first-team reps a little bit in the preseason. So what are our thoughts on him? Now, they're on a bye, so you might be able to snake him pretty cheap, right?
Yes. Yeah, and I would. I want him on my bench. I believe the Bishop Sankey experiment is done. The trade for Terrence West, he was a healthy scratch. And Antonio Andrews is going to get the shot. I don't know if he can succeed, but What you want is opportunity. You want guys who are getting starter snaps.
If
Antonio Andrews is that guy.
If you've got room on your bench to hold a guy on a bye week, that's fine. But I believe that he will not be picked up in most leagues because most of the time when people are picking up waivers, they're looking at projections for the next week, so he's not even going to show up. They're looking at names they know. They don't know his name. And I think in most leagues he's going to be available next week, and it's a name we need to make sure we remember next week because if he's on the waivers, he's a really good pickup.
That's why I picked him up this week.
I was going to say, you know that I couldn't actually sign him.
Oh, I know. Mike got him because Mike understood how the waivers worked.
Yeah.
Yep.
The ones that went through this morning.
Yep.
All right. Eric Ebron at the tight end position. I've been very impressed with him with my eyes watching the field. I don't know how we project him going forward, but he's gotten at least 5 targets a week. He had 10 last week against Minnesota. Played a tough defense this week. Still went 4 for 61. No touchdown for the first time this year, but is he a startable tight end?
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely.
Low end one.
And he still has a little bit of a case of the drops. There were a couple passes he could have had that he missed.
Drop a couple.
But just like Tyler Eifert, we were talking about how in the NFL he was a first-round pick. So was Eric Ebron. So he's a talented player.
Who else at the tight end position is standing out for you?
I mentioned Charles Clay. I think Charles Clay is a really good play this week. He's got a good matchup. Sammy Watkins is going to be out, and they're looking at using him more. And if you saw his run to the touchdown this last week, that was awesome.
And as of right now, I'm looking at the ESPN ownership percentage. Jordan Reed is owned in less than 62% of leagues.
That's just insane.
Wow.
That's insane.
Jordan Reed may be out there for you. You should have picked him up two weeks ago.
When Kirk Cousins is freaking out in the pocket, who's he looking for?
Jordan Reed.
Yeah. I mean, that. What is that sound effect again?
that
is the actual. Is that like game film?
No,
is that game tape?
When he's mic'd up, that's what you hear.
We were talking about Cousins and compared him to
Kevin Cobb.
So afraid in the pocket, man. Pressure comes at him, and his feet just start stampering like mine would if I was.
Totally.
I'm not saying I could stand in the pocket and take a hit. But I'm saying an NFL
You know, if he stood in the pocket and took a hit on that throw to Jordan Reed in the end zone, he would have had a touchdown. He just back foot threw it because he was afraid of getting hit. Yeah. All right. We talked about Charles Clay. You want to sign him too. All right. At the quarterback position, Tyrod Taylor is still on this list because he's not owned in more than 50% of leagues. He's in 44% right now.
T-Mobile.
Did you guys give him that name?
No.
T-Mobile.
That's honestly, that's picking up steam.
That's funny.
That's what I'm hearing out of Buffalo.
Tyrod Taylor, mobile quarterback.
All right, so also Andy Dalton and Derek Carr had big weeks. Carr had a second straight 300-plus 2 week. Who do you like the most between Dalton and Carr?
Dalton.
Well, I like Dalton.
Go with Dalton.
We'll hear more about that in a second. So,
all right, because we're getting into our streams of the week. Is that why?
That's why.
All right, so Tyrod Taylor, you got to sign him. Would you start him? Is he an every week start?
He is now.
He's when you're picking him up, you probably have another really good quarterback on your team, or at least decent. So I would still say he's matchup, but you could play him in any game and be serviceable. But I just don't think he's a guy that you play over other good options in good matchups.
Okay, what's a good option that you would not play him over?
I would not play him over. Let me look at the matchups here.
Tyrod Taylor is dominating. People, look at his numbers. Look at his completion percentage. Look at just everything that he's doing, not just fantasy but real life. Tyrod Taylor looks fantastic. It's only 3 games.
I know.
So he could fall.
It's
going
to catch up to him a little bit.
It could, or he could be great. This is how people were talking about Cam Newton his rookie year. Right? He came out of the gates just scorching hot. Oh, there's no way this can continue for fantasy. And it did.
Yeah.
So I'm buying into Tyrod Taylor.
Oh, you know who's got a really good matchup this week, who I would definitely play, would be Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
So looking at the matchups, he's
week 5.
Well, then play him for 2 weeks.
Yeah. He's playing the Dolphins this week. So.
But he does.
All right. Dalton, Carr, good streaming options. We'll talk a lot more about streaming quarterback options this week. Defensively, if you need to snag somebody for this week, Philadelphia has the Redskins and Kirk Cousins. Green Bay faces the 49ers, who
Green Bay's defense
is playing very good. It's playing very good.
Good.
And Colin Kaepernick is skittish. You've felt the impact of that offense struggling when you look at Carlos Hyde's numbers, because I watched Carlos Hyde play this week and he looked fine. Carlos Hyde looks good, but you can't run the ball with Karlos Hyde when you're down 40-7. And so Kaepernick has to turn it around for Hyde to have better games. And then Oakland is facing off against possibly the Jimmy Clausen-led
the Clausen Pickles.
The Clausens, who I think everyone else has been traded away.
Yeah, we're getting there.
So you would start Oakland?
If
Cutler's back, would you start Oakland? Cutler and Jeffrey back?
If Cutler and Jeffrey are back,
Still got
I probably
Forte?
wouldn't. But I don't expect Cutler to be back. I
don't?
guess that's still up in the air, a little too early. But if Clausen is playing, then yeah, I would start Oakland.
Okay, let's go ahead and ask some more waiver questions to our special guest today, Marshall Faulk, joining us on the show.
You talking to me?
The fantasy footballers are thrilled to welcome in Super Bowl champion and Pro Football Hall of Fame member Marshall Faulk to the show this morning. Marshall, as you know, is also an analyst on the NFL Network, and he joins us today to talk about the current NFL season and a new tool to help you win your fantasy football league. Good morning, Marshall.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us today. I have a quick question for you. You probably know this. You're also in the Fantasy Football Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah.
And
I kind of have to be.
Yeah, you kind of have to be.
My career kind of took off right around the birth of fantasy football, so I kind of have to be.
Yeah, you won me some championships, and I appreciate that. Yeah, you single-handedly won people championships. 18.
Were those free leagues? Were you playing for free?
Yeah, unfortunately, those ones were free leagues. I wish I was paying back then.
Was that something that you paid attention to around that time? Like you said, it was the birth. I mean, were you aware of that or not really?
I was not aware, and as a player then, I mean, it confused me. I was like, the weirdest things started to happen as fantasy football would take off. I'd be in the visitor stadium, and the fan would be yelling, "Hey, Marshall, you suck. I hope you score 2 touchdowns and you guys lose." I'm like, what? I suck. Score 2 touchdowns, but you want us to lose?
Fantasy does some weird things to people, doesn't it?
It does.
It is. It's crazy. So
man, it's complicated.
It is. It's a funny thing, and it's weird too when you have a guy on your home team, and you want him to score all the points for your home team, as opposed to just being happy to root for your guys. So
yeah.
But let's talk about the NFL season so far. We're a few weeks in. And so what are some teams and players that have stood out to you this season?
Teams that stood out to me, New England's the obvious, but I have to say them because I didn't expect them to play this well with all the stuff Tom Brady went through during the offseason. But Atlanta, 3-0, 3 double-digit deficits for them to beat 3-0. Carolina, they win ugly, but they win.
Yeah,
Arizona, obviously Green Bay. We have some good football being played right now in the league.
Yeah, we've really enjoyed watching Arizona. We're locals out here in Phoenix, so their start has been great. All the points being put up. So from a fantasy perspective, let me ask you this: being a running back, is there somebody from the rookie crop of running backs that has stood out to you from the rest, somebody that you see as maybe being one of those franchise-type backs?
I wouldn't say franchise. I think the franchise backs are the 2 backs that got picked up, Gurley and Gordon. They're the franchise backs. Now, franchise fantasy backs, Amir Abdullah is going to be special. I believe Kevin Coleman, when he's healthy in Atlanta, he's going to be special. These are guys that, if you're in a PPR league, they are going to catch you balls. They're going to get you yards on the ground, and they're going to help you out a lot. I don't know if the other 2 guys are going to be that consistently because they play on teams where they're going to be first, second down guys. They have other guys to come in to play third down and catch passes and do stuff like that.
What do you think about David Johnson in Arizona?
I like David. Listen, they've had issues at the running back position, keeping guys healthy, but David seemed to be a guy that in the special teams game, and they put the ball in his hands. He makes plays. Makes plays, and then Chris Johnson. Chris is having his career kind of resurrected because all the down-the-field throwing is opening up running lanes for Chris Johnson that he hasn't had in a long time.
We didn't expect that kind of impact, yeah.
No, he hasn't. But he hasn't seen six-man boxes in a long time. And as much as Bruce Arians throws the football down the field, Chris is going to have these opportunities with six-man boxes. He can still play this game at a high level.
Yeah, he had a huge game this past week. And one thing, today's our waiver wire show for our listeners. And so I wanted to ask you, are there some players that are must-adds for you this week or guys you think are ready to break out that haven't yet?
Oh, man. Let's see. Who's ready to break out whom hasn't yet? I like Terrence Williams.
Okay.
Although it's Brandon Wheaton throwing him the football, I think that Dallas, they have to push the ball down the field. All that underneath throwing stuff, you're going against the New Orleans Saints. They've been giving up a lot down the football field. You just take any other receiver in Atlanta. They're going to start a double in Julio Jones. The ball, Matt Ryan is going to have to throw the ball to somebody else. One of those guys, Hankerson, somebody has to step up for them. I just think that they're going to have a big year. And then when you look at James Jones over in Green Bay.
You like Ty Montgomery?
Ty Montgomery, any of those other guys. Anytime you have a guy have a big day, like Randall Cobb caught 3 touchdowns last night, next week they're going to take him away. Somebody else is going to have to make themselves available. I think that Golden Tate is going to have a phenomenal year because of all the attention that Megatron gets. So there's always those guys, that B receiver guy, when you have a star on the other side that's really going to get off. Moncrief over in Indianapolis, he's going to have a monster year with T.Y. getting all the attention and people paying attention to Dorsey as he become the down the field guy as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike over here has been a big Moncrief fan, so it's good to hear that. Now, I understand there's a new tool. We always introduce our listeners to tools that are valuable to them that help them win their fantasy leagues, compete for championships. There's a new tool that viewers can use to help manage their teams. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, it's the player comparison tool powered by SAP, and this tool is it's a great device. It can really help you on who to sit, who to start. It incorporates all the intangibles, some of that you don't even think about in fantasy football, playing home or away, good weather, bad weather, if it's a dome team going outside, all of that stuff. And the very same intangibles and algorithms that it used, you can use them on the waiver wire guys as well, and on those trades. Don't make any silly trades without knowing the value of your guy and really the value of the guy that they're dangling out there for you to make the trades with. You need to have information. There's a lot of sharks out there, and this tool can do things from as simple as who to sit, who to start, and then the information on how valuable are the people you're trading for and the people you're trading.
That is great, and for fantasy owners, information is kind of the currency that wins leagues. So we really appreciate your insight, all this information. Thank you very much for joining us on the show, Marshall.
Not a problem.
All right, thanks. All right, special thanks to Marshall Faulk for joining us on the show today.
Hey, Marshall, text me. we'll make the plans later.
There you go. Full stream ahead. You guys ready to talk about quarterback streaming options?
Let's do it.
Full stream ahead.
All right, last week we gave you 3 pretty good options that you would have certainly been able to get by with. Tyrod Taylor was Mike's stream of the week, and he had a dominating week. He was the QB4. We also had, we said you could expect 202 out of Bortles. He ended up putting that up.
Hit the button.
Oh, the garbage
yeah. Actually, the last 2 guys.
Yeah, both of them.
Bortles and Alex Smith.
Hit the button again.
Oh, the garbage man can.
We could have hit that for Jeremy Maclin, too. Alex Smith, when that game was going and he had 50 yards passing and no touchdowns, I didn't even go on Twitter because I just figured Jason was going to get ripped.
And yet he finished as the QB11.
That's why there's 2 halves.
He was a number 1
Or
quarterback
halves.
despite being terrible. And the reason The reason is because it was a high-scoring game, just like Vegas said, and the yards were going to be there. He ran the ball a lot. He got the 2-point conversion, and shockingly was a quarterback one because he was terrible, and I think he's bad for the Kansas City Chiefs. But in fantasy, you can start these guys. Who had a better standard scoring week, Alex Smith or Peyton Manning? Alex Smith. I mean, and that's why we preached, in the draft season. When you use one of these early picks on a guy like a Peyton Manning, a Drew Brees, or even the Aaron Rodgers and Andrew Luck, you're missing out on a really good option. I mean, where Peyton was going, you could have had Latavius Murray and then started, Tyrod Taylor off of waivers, who was the number 4 quarterback this week.
And we've told you about Tyrod Taylor since February.
Yeah.
No, not really. That's a joke. That was a joke. Come on, Jason, quickly.
I didn't know.
We didn't
I didn't
say
know
that.
which month, but we said it on our sleepers before the draft.
Well, I'm making the point that there are going to be guys that emerge that you
Yes.
don't know about that are still startable. Especially, I mean, the quarterback position, guys are putting up such big numbers. It's either garbage time or they're great in the beginning. I mean, it's just very hard to pick a really terrible Colin Kaepernick type guy. All right, Jason, since you brought us the gift that was Alex Smith's garbage time production, why don't you start us off here in our full stream ahead section? If you didn't notice, by the way, we moved this section ahead. We're putting this on Thursday and Friday. We figured it's better to put it on our waiver wire show so you can snag these guys because we want to be able to give you guys that somebody might compete with on waivers. So it's probably a better decision to move it forward. Jason, who's your guy?
So my guy this week is the Red Rocket. He is still owned in less than 40% of leagues. He's 39% owned. Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton has put up enormous points on the year so far this year, and his matchup coming up this week is the matchup we just saw Aaron Rodgers destroy, the Kansas City Chiefs. The secondary of the Kansas City Chiefs looks very beatable right now, and the weapons of Andy Dalton, A.J. Green's looking good, Marvin Jones, Tyler Eifert, the weapons are there to put up points. So Andy Dalton is my stream of the week.
All right, Mike, who's yours?
We're back to the well. T-Mobile. Tyrod Taylor will be my stream until he's owned in enough leagues that he cannot be streamed anymore. Last week, 277 yards and 3 touchdowns. And this was dominant. Like if they had kept their foot completely on the pedal, then he would have had even more points because they were blowing out the Dolphins. But he takes on the Giants. He's at home. It's a similar thing with the Giants secondary. They got some guys banged up. You have to like a quarterback who's playing great and can run the ball. And he's got weapons. It's just Tyrod Taylor is my man, my homeboy.
All right, let's go ahead. I am a very big endorser of the Andy Dalton pick. He was my original kind of thought process went through Andy Dalton, so I like that pick. I went with Derek Carr.
Send in the car.
Send in the car.
Send in the car.
That's a
No. You blew it.
Yeah, sorry.
The game cannot be played.
I'm sorry. I ruined that. You were going to have our listeners guess what that was from.
Send in the car.
Derek Carr, quarterback, Oakland Raiders, going up against the 27th best fantasy defense against quarterbacks in the Chicago Bears. Now, it is in Chicago. And the Bears are not giving up piles of yardage, so you're going to have to lean on a couple touchdowns here from Derek Carr. But thus far, the Bears have not been great against the fantasy quarterback. And so I'm just playing that trend. Carr, like I said, has 2 straight weeks where he has been over 300 yards passing. He's only thrown 1 interception on the year, so he's not beating you with bad mistakes. And so I think Derek Carr is a streamable option this week against Chicago.
Amari Cooper is looking great, and Derek Carr on the year is right now a top 10 quarterback. He's number 9.
So those are our streams this week. Make sure you visit our website, thefantasyfootballers.com, if you have more questions for us. We're going to do mostly a mailbag show tomorrow, answering listener questions. So go on there, submit your question. We're going to answer as many as we can. We know that you're facing a lot of decisions right now in terms of trade offers, in terms of who to drop, who to sign, who to stay with, which guys that you can, I don't know how many tweets I get a day of people saying, do I cut bait on Lamar Miller? And they mean, do you drop the guy? Do you, how many of these guys, Andrew Luck, when do I give up on him and start somebody else? I mean, the questions are all across the board, so visit the website. Make sure you also check out our fantasy community on jointhefoot.com. Get involved there. Do you guys have any parting words for our listeners?
Did anybody see Ted Thompson clapping last night during the game? They talked about him, and they panned up to a shot. I actually recorded it. I'm going to post it because I have no human being claps like this.
I can't wait to see it.
And he looks like, if I remember right, he's very straight-faced and very straight-handed clapping, and just looks
like it's his first time. Like he's just trying this out. Like I wonder what this is.
Yeah,
I've seen people do this before.
So it's I'll post that up so people can have a chuckle.
Yeah. So all right, thanks for listening, Jason. Thank you for Alex Smith and his garbage time.
Thank you, Alex. But Jamal Charles should not have got all 3 of those touchdowns from the 7.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at www.thefantasyfootballers.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.